Are you wearing your makeup like a MAGA babe? Before you hit unsubscribe, we're going to take a fresh new spin on what is being dubbed the Republican makeup trend that is taking TikTok, BuzzFeed, and the internet by storm. We're going to talk about that trend today, and as a freelance professional makeup artist, I am going to weigh in. Now, the purpose of my video today is not to publicly bash or make fun of anybody or any political party. It is more to give an objective look and analysis at makeup trends that are apparently what's perceived as a Republican approach versus a liberal one. And I really just kind of want to unpack and unravel which trend is more trending and current, the Republican one or the liberal one. Stick around to find out. All right, guys, so welcome back to the channel. I am Cher if you are new here, and this is just a really fun video we're going to do today. One I just could not resist. We're going to look at both sides of the aisles and see what lessons we can learn from each party. All right, so first of all, let's go back and let's talk about what is the Republican makeup trend. This trend is something that started coming out, I'd say, on TikTok. You had at least one TikToker they're talking about. I think her name's Suzanne Lambert, something like that. I'll put her handle here. And she's, of course, kind of more of a political advocate, but she started noticing a trend, especially in the leadership, folks like Carolyn Levitt, to some of your well-known Republican leaders that's kind of always in the news. And she started noticing a certain makeup trend among them and started doing her makeup in TikToks to sort of highlight things she noticed about their makeup. Then others started following suit and doing what they called a liberal makeover, where they would wear their makeup supposedly more like certain liberal women. So we're going to go through and look at some of these examples. We're going to show examples of certain women on each side. I'm going to do my makeup on one side of the face, the Republican makeup way or trend, and then I'm going to do the liberal makeover approach on the other side of the face. Now, I do also want to say that a lot of this is gross overgeneralizations. You can take any picture of anybody on any given day and find a bad picture of them out there that somebody snapped. So we could pick the pictures we like on each side and show that bias. So let's dig into it and go step by step and give some examples. The first step in our makeup application today will typically be hydrate our face. But according to those who have dubbed this Republican makeup trend, the Republican side apparently does not use any kind of moisturizer. They just go straight in with the makeup. No hydration, everything is flat and dry. So I'm only going to apply my skincare on the liberal side. So we're going to go ahead and put on my dew cream. So our makeup lesson is dewy definitely is more of the trend. Very, very hydrated skin is in. Let's really look at, for a moment, some pictures and compare each one. Is this really the case across the board? Let's pick someone that they have been picking on. Nancy Mace is one in particular they have pointed out. And this is something that I do see on her skin. Her skin isn't looking super like hydrated and glowing. It's pretty dry. I am going to try to pull some pictures of actual Democratic leaders who we all know and are familiar with. Jill Biden, look at here. Her skin looks fairly hydrated. Let's look at a picture of Kamala. She is absolutely glowing and beautiful hydrated skin here for sure. So yes, we are definitely seeing a little more hydrated skin there. However, let's take a peek here at she goes by AOC. They call her AOC, but she's Alexandria Cortez. I can't remember the middle name, the middle of the hyphen, but not looking as hydrated in my opinion. So I think you could find on both sides of the aisles. Is hydrated skin really more of a liberal thing? I don't know about that. All right, now we're going to start on the base, the foundation. What they're saying that the Republicans like to do are a couple things with the foundation. Number one is going super hardcore full coverage, thick, clumpy, spotchy, cakey, all of that. And then the second thing is going to be shade matching. I think that the stereotype overall, everybody is kind of associating with MAGA is orange. The Donald, the orange skin, the spray tan. So that is what they are accusing of Republican women of doing in their foundation shade matching, is that they go a lot more orange than they should be. Basically, they're going a lot more spray tan look instead of with their natural skin tone. So we're going to do two things with our foundation. On the Republican side, I'm going to go in with this Lawless because number one, it is full coverage foundation. And number two, the shade matching is so weird on this one, and it turned me a little more orange. We're gonna just like smear it all on over here. Let's look at some examples. I think that the number one person everybody is calling out and talking about a lot is Carolyn Levitt, Trump's press secretary. So first of all, with the shade matching, I don't feel like she always looks orange or anything. I feel like usually her shade match is good, though I have found at least one picture where it was a little off. Maybe she had been on vacation, had gotten a spray tan or something. I don't know. But for the most part, I'm not seeing this. But let's look at some other examples of maybe some who might have a little more of that spray tan orange look going on. Even Melania, a little bit. I think she's beautiful, though. I don't really ever feel like her makeup looks bad, in my opinion. There's going to be a couple things we do point out later on. There's times where maybe she's taking on a little orange tint. She's kind of matching her husband a little bit, like in this picture. Overall, though, I think like it goes with her skin tone and the overall look in general. But there might be times she's a little more on the orange side. You also have a couple of Nancy Mace, sorry. It just depends on the picture you look at of her too. We have a few orange spells, but definitely the full coverage itself, the extra clumpiness, the extra full coverage. This is definitely where you're seeing it. But let's look at Carolyn Levitt again. So here's a couple of pictures of her where I think her full coverage look is actually done well. It doesn't look bad and like clumpy here. She has this gorgeous like porcelain look to her face in this picture. So I think that this is a somewhat appropriate like professional shot of her. However, you can tell that it is full coverage. And I think that, for example, let's look at like a picture of Hillary Clinton here. You're looking at very mature skin. So if you look up at her forehead, you can see a little bit of like her freckles and age spots and all kind of coming through there. It's always a challenge with mature skin to cover things like that, but at the same time, not cake it all up. So this is actually a great picture of base makeup on Hillary. It looks more natural, but it actually is covering a lot, but it doesn't look like it's covering a lot, if that makes sense to you. So if you have someone who needs more coverage, you want more full coverage foundation, but it's tricky finding that balance. In general, right now, what's trending is going to be more things like skin tints and lighter base, more natural base, but that doesn't offer you a lot of coverage. And so that is a challenge, is you still want to cover people on TV. You want to cover their problem spots and whatnot. But with Carolyn Levitt, she does not have skin that needs to be covered much. This looks, you can tell it's like this solid cloud covering her face in makeup, which is okay, but it's kind of not necessary on her. There's not a lot she has to cover. She's younger, she has more porcelain skin, and so she would honestly probably benefit from a little lighter application here. But then in other shots like this one, okay, yes, that looks terribly cakey and awful, but let's be real, she was out in the sun probably here. We've all had pictures taken of us like this, I'm sure. Let's put on a matching skin tone and a very light one that still offers a little coverage too. Not like too overly dewy, but gives that really nice hydrating finished, radiant skin look with just a teeny bit of like a tint and coverage. So I'm gonna put that on instead, and I'm going to use a brush. This is BK Beauty, that is a little bit more sinking it into the skin so it's not caking it on. And I'm gonna make a little bit more circular motions, and I'm gonna bring it down into the neck. Are we seeing a difference so far between this side versus this one? Which one's your favorite? Let's move on now to brows. All right, so another thing in brows. They are accusing the Republican side of having very drawn on, harsh kind of looking block brows still. So we're going to map that out and give an example. So we're going to use a brow stamp for this. I'm using the eye method. They definitely give you more of the block solid line. So you come in with a stencil and you go over it. All right, so there we have it. And let's look at examples. Again, we have Carolyn Levitt. This is definitely, she is classic, like drawn brows look, block brows. I would argue, I do see it a little bit in some of the liberal side as well. I'm even seeing in like Michelle Obama. There is a style of like a little thinner and not so big and block style. If you notice that difference. Let's take some other on the liberal side and let's just look and see, let's compare their brows. You definitely see, you might have more bold brows, like for example, AOC here. She has dark brows, you know, she has more of a deeper complexion. And so her brows are dark like mine. But those are kind of her natural brows, I think. They're just amplified just a little bit, but they're not drawn like a block. So they're definitely darker, bolder, but you can see the texture in them. So it's gonna have more texture, a little more, not feather effect, but just you're seeing them look more like their natural brows. Kamala's, hers are slightly more drawn on here, I will say. So Kamala's are a little bit drawn. They have a slight block look to them, but they're still a little smaller and thinner than like Carolyn Levitt's, okay? But let's check out some Republican women that do have the natural brows. So I don't think this is across the board, guys. I think they picked and chose certain women. So for example, let's look at Ivanka Trump. I mean, hers are perfectly sculpted, definitely has a very sculpted look to them, very clean, but you can still pick out a little bit of texture in there. So I am seeing texture. Let's take Casey DeSantis, who is, I'm in Florida, and so our governor here is DeSantis, and this is his wife. Now, I actually personally know her former makeup artist. I know a lot about Casey DeSantis's makeup. This woman is absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to be picking out a few things I've seen in her though throughout the video, mostly positive, but there's a couple things I can point out. But let's look at her brows for a moment, because she has the epitome of very bold, like a little bit bushy, but those dark colored brows. And I feel like her brows really define a lot of her face. So they're very, very, very sculpted. And this may even be the work of the person that I know. This might be her work actually, but it's very defined, large brows, but there's still a little bit of texture in there. You can see like in the corners here, there is like that natural appearance of brow hairs. Okay, so we still have a somewhat natural look. Like these are truly like a lot of this is her real brows. So this isn't an across the board thing, guys. I can show you enough like Republican women who don't have those block brows. But if we're talking in general about what is kind of trending, it'd be what they're all saying is the liberal side. So let's map out the liberal side real quick, which my brows are difficult to work with because I have a lot of gaps. So I'm just going to map out the natural line of my brows. I'm going to use my brush and go very aggressive at creating those little brow hairs with my brush. I can even turn it this way, shake it up a little bit to really diffuse out the color so that it's just more natural looking. Okay, and there you have it. So Republican brows, liberal brows. So now we're going to map out concealer because at this point, you know, I typically do put down a base on the eyes with either concealer or primer. We're going to use concealer, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the shade matching or patchiness that we talked about with the foundation too. Republican side, usually we're still doing the really light, bright, crazy, like 4 shades lighter than your skin tone to identify the eyes here, which, yes, guys, this is very brightening. And this was all the trend was to do the little triangle. So we're going to do like, you know, this triangle down all the way like that. I think this was the trend for a while. And like cake on, I can't even get it all on as much as the cakiness was. Cake on the concealer like crazy. And I'm going to put it on my eyes too while we're at it. And really like sculpt these eyebrows too. Everything's very like concealer at this point. Lots of concealer. Like really bring in all those concealer tricks that we learned in like the early and mid 2000s, right? I'm gonna put a little dot down here, whole bunch up here. And what we want is that, what I call the reverse raccoon look. Supposedly, this is what the Republican trend does, is we got lots and lots of foundation that's not really evenly blended out. It's patchy. It's over cakey. Very like defined. Look at some pictures of people that have this. Like, it still can be a very brightening thing, but the problem is you can really tell where all that concealer was placed, like exactly where it was. It looks like white glasses somebody almost put on them. You know what I'm saying? So let's look at Carolyn Levitt again. I'm going to start putting powder on top of that also. So definitely we come back in with very drying, cakey, translucent powder. And we apply it with our powder puff. That's the name of them. These are very mattifying when you put it on. It really cakes on your powder. I think where you can really see this clearly is on Nancy Mace. You can really see the like under eye spotchiness and like over cakey concealer. It's a lot lighter. It's almost yellowy though. Like, it's a much different color than some of her other makeup. So it's really a starch difference. You're really seeing it all clearly here. In opposition to that though, we're going to come over on the more liberal side. We're going to do more our skin tone, doing more of like a color corrector. People are even using their bronzer shades, like lighter bronze shades, to just kind of minimally put on like a little bit of concealer in certain areas, but it's more like the color of your skin or a regular concealer that really matches your skin tone, not going as much with the lighter skin tones anymore. That's like more brightening and whatnot. So I'm just kind of putting this on with my finger a little bit, or they might lightly coat it with a brush, but it's a very light application. And then I'm going to dust on just a little bit of setting powder, just the lightest bit on top of that, because you still do want to set. I'm going to lightly dust it, like ever so much. So let's look at a few on the liberal side and see, do they indeed kind of keep that same skin tone, not a lot of patchiness. Now, I would argue theirs is just, there's not as much coverage though for theirs. So let's look at Elizabeth Warren. I mean, it just looks like her skin, like she's not wearing anything, right? So there's not always as much like middle ground for this natural kind of minimalist side. Finding that balance of like still having like a smooth, kind of touched up skin, but that still looks like your skin, I think is where maybe the liberal side doesn't always quite get it, you know, professionally. So when it comes to eyeshadow, I think that they're kind of saying The Republican women are going with really, really bold, darker eyes, more eyeshadow, a lot thicker like eyeliner, big old lashes, sometimes clumpy lashes, and just kind of dark here. Liberal side usually is pretty empty and light, not a lot going on in the eyes. So let's demonstrate that and look at pictures at the same time. Republican side, you know, you do see a little more of this darker on the lid, whereas on your more liberal side, it's practically nothing. Just even leaving it like this, or minimal light base, very open, not a lot going on. This is definitely the difference I do see, is much bolder eyes on the Republican side. That full glam idea, I think. We're gonna check out, for example, even Melania. Like there's sometimes they have a lighter color on her eyes going on like here, but there's times you can even make out a little darker on the lids there, if you can see. And then let's look at Carolyn Levitt. Even you might not be able to see this, but like down there closer to her lid, there's some darker colors on the lid. Then I'll point out a thick line of eyeliner on the lid too. It was not very like thin, tight line. It's a very thick wing going all the way across her line there. Whereas you'll notice a lot of the liberal side, there's just nothing. I mean, not anything going on really on the eyeshadow. So I definitely do note this huge difference between the two sides. And then that brings us to the eyeliner. So the Republican side, supposedly they're loving their eyeliner. So not even huge wings. We're talking just a big, bold, like almost clump of eyeliner across the bottom. Very thick eyeliner up here, right? Of course, we need eyeliner on the bottom for sure. So we're gonna do the line of eyeliner. Let's see if we can find some examples of this. Yes, like I said, Carolyn Levitt. But in general, she doesn't always wear it like that. I think it looks pretty good in some other pictures. Let's look at Nancy Mace again. You see the starch line there under the eyes, just nothing else. It's just a starch line of eyeliner. It's not really blended, kind of sits out in a C, and then a little bit of cakey like concealer underneath. I think this is kind of what they're referring to. More of what we're doing is a little more natural. You can still do a little touch of darker eyeshadow, which is what I tend to do every day. I'm going to take a very precise type brush like this, and I'm going to dip it into just more of like a dark brown. Even this lighter brown I might mix together, and you can kind of have a defined line that you just like rub back and forth. But you can kind of get the same effect and define it just a little bit, and maybe even along just the outer edges, but not the whole thing sometimes. You can even give yourself a teeny bit of a wing or just a little more diffused wing, so it gives a little depth. You can tight line up here into the lashes. You could technically even do this with a dark eyeshadow or even liner if you want, but you don't want like a line that you can actually see coming out. You just want to do this up into your lashes to kind of define into the lashes. So you can still get a little definition, but without too much. So you see the difference here between the two sides. It's really it. So Republican, liberal, much more natural, minimalist. For lashes, really, like mascara is definitely still big, so come in with a little mascara, but you want something that's kind of natural looking, like a tubing mascara would probably be more appropriate on the liberal side, or lengthening ones that kind of catch each lash, but not your like super ultra volumizing, clumpy, spidery type mascaras. This side though, we want very ultra clumpy lashes. Look there, nice and spidery. And then on top of that, we want fake lashes that are huge. Okay, so this is definitely probably very over exaggerated, but I'm just saying you gotta have the lashes. Now, these are probably a little too bushy and full from even, you know, they do it in a classy way. Like, let's look at Casey DeSantis here. Oh my gosh. I can't remember if this is like I think this is one of the inauguration pictures. This style here is what I have always thought of as Republican. It's that very like Jackie Kennedy classic look. So this right here to me is ideal. And her lashes are there. They're defining her. They look gorgeous, but they're not like overdone like this and crazy. But you do have other cases like Melania, like in this picture, okay? They're a little bigger. They definitely stand out. I mean, I still think she's beautiful and it looks good on her, but it might be a little more overdone than on your liberal side. Your liberal side, I don't really see false lashes much over there. It's pretty much the natural lashes. Now, I'd say on some of these, like the headshots, maybe Kamala here or Michelle Obama, even Hillary maybe, they might be wearing false lashes, but they're probably very, very, very small natural ones or clusters or something that it looks just like their real lashes, but it's giving them a little more even, you know, full effect. So that's some of your difference there too. So I think it's just Republican side, you're looking at very bold, heavy, smoky, full glam eyes. Liberal side is way more natural. All right, let's move on now to the cheeks and lips and we will wrap it up. So they're saying that on the Republican side, they don't really see them doing contour, which is interesting to me because contour was like all the thing in over the last like decade or so. Contouring and highlight was right there with all that concealer. So it's interesting they're kind of leaving out the contour. So we're going to not contour on this side. It's going to be all one. Now, it's not looking as orange now because it's the only thing about this foundation from Lawless is it does oxidize and starts to match your skin tone. It started off orange. It's not now. So I'm sorry it's not demonstrating it quite as well. But like the idea and premise is that it's an orange, all one orange face with just the white raccoon eyes that are white instead of black with bold, heavy eyes. And then blush placement that's placed too low. So we're going to do the blush real quick. All right, so we're going to come in with a blush that's probably like a little darker, maybe like tanny, kind of tanny and orangey too, right? And we're going to put it like right there. All right, and we're going to make sure it's really thick and defined, not blended. And a little low, almost where like our contour should go, but this is our blush. Maybe we'll add a little color in it because it's blush, right? All right, that's supposed to be the Republican blush. So let's look at this picture of Ivanka Trump. Actually, I think this looks really good on her, but it's very heavy, not natural blush. I think it's in an okay placement for her. You're not seeing a lot of others though. That blush really stands out and pops, right? Sorry, I got it all over the place. So let's do it the liberal way. Even like Carolyn Levitt here, there's a couple areas you can see that starch blush. So now on the more liberal side, we are going to contour a little bit, but we're going to do a very natural contour. I'm just kind of doing a cream one. And I'm going to really blend everything so you really don't know that I contoured much. Because blush is definitely still big. Putting a little bit of color, you know, into the cheeks, but still it's going to be more natural and minimal. I'm going to go with the Danessa Myricks we just got. It's creamy, more dewy looking, blends into the skin, but it's not over the top. And that's really it. And then last is the lips. So they say that on the Republican side, you put something kind of like washed out for your skin, so a lighter shade, so with no lip liner. So I'm gonna go with maybe like this, like, yeah, that'll be good. or even like the frosted pink, you know? But like, see how it's like almost orange on me and like a light washed out like color? That's what they say it's like on the Republican side. I'm gonna put all the pictures of some of the Republican shots. I'd say their lips are fine. Like, they look natural and good to me. Some have lip liner on there. Now, some will say it's either washed out like this or it's really heavily overlined. So let's do that too. I'm gonna just pop in and overline with like a really dark. So it's like, that's the Republican side. So either one, I've seen it both ways of what they're claiming is the Republican way. Liberal way would be just a little more natural with a lip liner, but definitely more true to your shade, but not like overly lined, just kind of natural and blended. Okay, and then you'd put like another either natural color, or you may even have a pop of color. AOC again looks stunning with these dark like red pops of red on her lips. She looks so good in the red lips. And I think this is one area where I do notice they will put a little pop of color on the liberal side. Like even here, look at here, like Nancy Pelosi, that color looks really good on her. That kind of pink tone, almost hot pink. So I think you can get away with different colors. We'll just go with a natural color though, just to keep everything minimalist and natural. Keep those lips very hydrated. All right. I think we have it. The differences between the Republican versus the liberal. These lashes are really exaggerating, like I said, so we're kind of extra glam here. But it does kind of hit home the difference of, I think, just like full glam versus minimalist and natural. So I think overall my take on Republican versus liberal is just your idea of these days, less is more. Minimalist is kind of a little more trending at the moment. And I think that's really what it comes down to of what they're trying to hit home. I think that there are pros and cons though of each side. And like I've said, I don't think that one blanket approach fits on everyone. I think some people can get away with a little more natural than others. I think some need more coverage than others. Some have drier skin than others and oilier skin than others and need more matte, you know, so I think you have to look more into each person. And I think you need to look at like what colors and what styles look better. And some need more eyeliner definition. Some need more smoky eye definition. Some need more added to their brows, you know, so some need lower placement. So I think that overall you can't just be like, this is what is right and wrong in makeup. But I think overall the less is more minimalist style is just kind of what is trending. But I think the takeaway here is we always want to stereotype and say one side is always doing this more than the other. And I think that there is a little bit of error in that. I think that overall, I do tend to see the women on the Republican side wearing more makeup. They do wear more makeup, more glam. And I do tend to see a trend of probably the women on the liberal side doing a little less makeup and minimalist. But it doesn't mean everybody that it's that way across the board. I also don't think that Republican women's makeup across the board is bad, or the liberal women's makeup across the board is bad. I think it just tends to be that might be the differences we see, is that there's a little heavier makeup on one side than the other usually. So that's my take, guys. I hope this was both really fun and funny, and also very educational. If you love to see fun trends like this, you want to stick around here. Join the family if you like seeing different beauty topics, products, reviews, do a lot of beauty boxes on the channel, and more in makeup trends and makeup techniques. I would love to have you. Pop that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye.